Let's talk now to Michael Hoffman. He's an author and editor of the Revisionist History newsletter to get his views about the latest surrounding Libya. Mr. Hoffman, good evening to you. Washington's keen, isn't it, to pass control for military operations over Libya to somebody else. This at the same time as NATO's indecisive over who should be exactly responsible. Doesn't seem that this mission's been thought out properly at all, does it?
No, it doesn't. There seems to be quite a rivalry between David Cameron and Nicolas Sarkozy. And then Turkey is also dissenting because the Turks have already said that all they want is a no-fly zone, nothing more than that. The Germans are now stating that they are removing their navy from NATO control. So it seems like this is quite a muddled job indeed.
So who should take the lead as you see it, if you had the say in it?
Well, if I had any say in it, it would be the Arabs, and it would be the Arab decision alone. Surely, despite all the euphemisms and cover stories that have been issued, this seems like and appears to be another type of imperialism. It has to be seen that way in the Arab world. And no matter how much Sarkozy wants to claim that as long as France is leading the mission, the Arabs are supporting it, I don't think that that is going to be seen as anything more than disinformation. Let's leave it to the Arabs to take care of their own bailiwick. And meanwhile, those of us here in the United States, faced with a fiscal budget crisis, are wondering how on earth we can afford another war, a third front, when we can't even afford social services for Americans.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to come on to next, sir. Is that why the US is trying to distance itself tonight and hand over the baton, the unfortunate baton, as it were, to somebody else? Because it just can't afford it.
I think that Obama is facilitating here. I'm not sure if he really knows what to do. In the United States, we've been very disappointed with him. He seems to be a velvet glove on an iron fist and not much more than that. And he seems to be trying to extricate himself from this situation. But our question is, why did he get himself into it in the beginning? And why is he using our taxpayer money to do this while the Republican right wing, which is very eager in the United States to be involved in policing the planet, is at the same time telling us that we cannot afford basic social services. This angers many Americans in the United States.
The other big unanswered question, of course, Washington's yet again confirmed the US stance over Libya, saying that Gaddafi should immediately step down. I ask you, is this about taking down Gaddafi or protecting his people or about oil or a mixture of it all?
Well, it can't be about protecting people. I reject that rationale because where are the people being protected in Bahrain? Where is the no-fly zone in Gaza? There are all kinds of areas in the world where the United States, NATO, the UN, the Arab League could intervene, and they are not. And why is it that the Libyan civil war is being singled out? I agree with you. I think that there is another motivation here. It may be oil. It may be some other aspect of geopolitics. But nonetheless, I reject the surface explanation. I think it's ludicrous. And I believe that as this coalition begins to unravel, hopefully the truth will come out about this.
I guess there's also a school of thought to say the coalition has got no choice now but to remove Gaddafi, a man who's promising terrorist attacks if he stays. And indeed, I don't know what you think about this. Do you think those attacks are imminent? Is it an imminent threat?
Well, how is it that Gaddafi was rehabilitated in the last few years by the West, by the European Union, who have providing him with military arms, which he is now using against the rebels? How was it that he was rational enough and allegedly rehabilitated from his terrorist past, and now suddenly he's a terrorist again because he opposes our will? As Gaddafi said to Obama, if you had armed resistance in your cities, how would you react? Now, whether or not Gaddafi is serious about this rhetoric that he is using, which is, of course, very unfortunate and counterproductive, nonetheless, what right do we have to assassinate him, which is essentially what it is? Here in the United States, we had a series of shootings in Arizona where a madman killed a congresswoman and a federal judge, and this was universally condemned, as it should be in the United States, that assassination plays no role in American politics. Why should it play a role on the national scene or the international scene? And how do we know that the rebels who are fighting Gaddafi are going to be any better when we are dealing with a tribal situation? We don't know which tribe is going to come to the fore. We don't know whether this tribe will represent terrorists. And therefore, my attitude would be, if the United States was going to intervene, it should be with medical and humanitarian aid, and to try and bring both sides to the negotiating table and stop using war as a means of foreign policy. Many Americans here are elated that the Russians have taken a more sensible line, and we feel that Russia and Germany have the right approach at this time.
Michael Hoffman, author and editor of the Revisionist History newsletter, thank you for being on RT's. Appreciate it.